What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of OG55. I'm answering your questions in this Q&A. Again, welcome back to OG55, you nerd. Welcome aboard. Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate all of your support. Thank you so much for tuning back into OG55. Today, I'm going to answer a couple of your questions. I got a lot of great ones in the last community tab call to action. You guys and gals really came through with all the questions. So I'm still kind of going through them all, but we got a couple today that I want to dive into. Let's get started. Let's go. All right, so the first question comes from Disney Deep, and Disney Deep is asking, intellectual property, IP, was extremely popular in the 1980s and 90s, but Disney still balanced IP and original experiences in the parks. Why now has that changed? Okay, Disney Deep, this is a fantastic, fantastic question. There's a number of reasons, okay? I think that in general, well, first of all, in general, Disney has always been like a really heavily IP-based company. I mean, Walt Disney all but pioneered the current system that we have when it comes to kind of like utilizing IP and that cross promotion. That was very much a Walt Disney sort of thing, right? So it's always been very rooted in the Walt Disney Company. But Disney Deep, you're absolutely right. Like before, decades ago, there was much more. We saw much more original concepts, when it comes to the parks, things like Space Mountain, things like Big Thunder, Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, right? There were a lot of original ideas that were kind of sprinkled in with the existing IP. And as it went on, more recently, we saw less and less, and now it's pretty much non-existent. I mean, Disney Deep is absolutely right. There's nothing really going on at Disney in terms of these theme parks where they're doing any kind of original ideas or original stories. Okay. So why is this? There's a couple of things here. Okay. Number one, I think that when you focus on IP, it's more risk averse. There's one, see, the thing with IP is it comes with a built-in audience, right? So when you build an attraction like a Frozen Ever After or, a Big Hero 6 ride or a Star Wars ride, you already have a built-in audience, so there's less risk. When you invest in that attraction, the millions and millions of dollars they pour into that, you're more likely to make that money back because you have that fan base ready to go, to hit the ground running, to experience that attraction. Now, if you were to create, let's say, an original idea, well, you don't have that fan base built in, right? Like, so if you were to do, like, let's say, a Mystic Manor kind of a style attraction that they have over at Hong Kong, if you were to build that or a similar thing like that here in California, I mean, it could go either way, right? Like, we don't know. We don't know how popular or unpopular that would be out here because we don't have any like kind of barometer for that like we do with an existing IP. So I think that's a big factor involved in this. The IP sort of eliminates or at least mitigates that risk. The other thing, and here... I'm going to be, you know what? I'm going to be the bad guy right now. I'm going to be the bad guy. Disney Deep, I'm going to be the bad guy right now.
You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
I'm going to be the bad guy right now. No one ever wants to pin anything on Universal, right? I mean, we just know that. They get away with just about everything. In 2010, when Universal Orlando opened the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Wizarding World was a seismic shift in the theme park industry, right? And I would say mostly for good, to be honest with you. I think that was a really positive thing for theme parks. But there was one negative thing I think that came out of that. It really did sort of trigger a almost like an IP arms race between Disney and Universal. Once Wizarding World opened, you saw a lot more focus from Disney on the IP. And I don't think that's a coincidence. We saw Galaxy's Edge, we saw Pandora. It was all about that freaking IP. I think Wizarding World had a huge part in that. I really, really do. Now, I do believe that the industry was sort of already moving, in that IP heavy direction. But I think that Wizarding World accelerated that, okay, by quite a bit. Look, I know it's unpopular. I know it's unpopular to ever attribute anything negative to the patron saint of Universal. I get it. I get it, fandom. But in this case, I do believe that they did have a big part in pushing Disney further into that IP push. You know, I think it's a big factor. So, for better or worse, it did make an impact. Now, here's the thing too. IP in and of itself isn't always bad though. Okay, we got to set that record straight, because look, you can have an attraction based on an IP that's absolutely incredible, and you can have an attraction based on no IP that is absolute dog poop, right? Perfect example of that would be the Indiana Jones Adventure, both at Tokyo and Disneyland Resort here in California. An amazing attraction, one of the best theme park attractions ever built. You take a non-IP attraction like the Rocket Rods, which has no IP connected to it, and it was one of the worst things that Disney has ever done. Okay, it looked really cheap, yada yada yada. So I think that you can have IP and have it done correctly, and have it really land and be iconic and legendary, and really do amazing things with that IP. And you can have a non-IP thing that just kind of falls flat, and vice versa. I mean, you can have a non-IP thing that hits really hard and have an IP thing that doesn't really hit as hard. So it can go either way. So, but my overall point though is that just because it's an IP thing doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. But Disney Deep, I want to thank you so much for this question. A fantastic question, you know, really fantastic question. I do think it is multi-pronged though. There are multiple elements here, like I mentioned, with just the risk factor of doing a non-IP. I think Universal did accelerate everything with Wizarding World. There's probably other examples as well, as other reasons and factors involved in that, but I think those are pretty much the two big ones. And we'll see. You never know, maybe sometime down the road, and a few decades from now, who knows when, maybe non-IP will be the trend again. I mean, I hope so. I hope the non-IP attractions do come back, because I do think they're very, very special. Hopefully, like, you know, companies like Disney and Universal can find a way to mitigate that risk with those attractions and kind of monetize them in a way where it benefits the company and, you know, benefits us as fans, because we get a little bit of that variety, right? So Disney Deep, thank you so much for all your support over the past few years. I know you've been a supporter of OG55 for a long time. We do appreciate you, sir. Thank you for your question. And our next question comes from BJ Vincent, another friend of the channel. BJ Vincent says here, do you feel many of these new Disney influencers and or Disney YouTubers are actually fake Disney fans? For example, many Foundation fans, while we may vocally and loudly complain about things like theming at the park, current Disney movies, and the overuse of IP at Disney resort rides and hotels, the treatment of Disney cast members, and how they are being underpaid, just to name a few things. While many of the newer fake fans, or pixie dusters, for lack of a better phrase, will accept whatever Disney gives them just to sell their brand and not care or mention that Disney cast members are being underpaid. Okay, BJ Vincent, thank you so much for this question. Okay, so here's the thing, BJ, okay? And again, I might be the bad guy with this answer, okay? Maybe not, I don't know, we'll see. You're not wrong necessarily, but I think that you're missing maybe some of the equation here. Okay. So you're asking me, do I think that a lot of these influencers and Disney YouTubers are fake fans, and they're sort of just doing this for like the access or the money? To be honest, yeah, dude, I absolutely think that. I absolutely think there's a lot of people that are not really passionate about the parks or the company in general, that are just kind of going through what they have to go through to make their money, And I think that's definitely a thing. But here's the thing though. Nerd recognize nerd, okay? As a nerd, BJ and myself and everyone here watching, you can tell when someone's faking it, right? You can tell when someone's full of shit. If you're a nerd, you can spot that, you can smell that a mile away. I know I can. When someone's trying to sell me a bill of goods, I know they're not really on that same nerdy level, like they're not really into this, you can tell. So look, they can fake it all they want, but at the end of the day, I think most people that are actually into this stuff can smell that a mile away. Okay, but here's where I kind of disagree with you, maybe BJ, a little bit, in that you kind of focus on like the pixie dusters and the positive kind of shills. Like they're like the only ones that can kind of fake being a Disney fan. And that's where I disagree. Just because someone's negative, right? Just because you have a content creator out there making negative Disney content, saying like, well, Disney this, Disney that, you know, really going after the mouse, right? Doesn't mean that they're more authentic. Negativity does not in and of itself mean authenticity, okay? Just like positivity doesn't automatically mean inauthentic. So while I do believe there are pixie dusters and positive kind of shilly content creators out there that are fake fans, I think there's an equal number of fans out there that are negative and basically their whole livelihood, right, is kind of like based on hating the mouse. I think there's honestly money in that too. Okay. Like, let's not, I mean, look, there's a lot of content creators out there that make a lot of money hating on Disney. That's a very lucrative business. You know, I can tell you right now, if I were to go in that direction, I'd probably have a lot more subs. Okay. Negativity sells, not just in Disney, but just in general. That's why your local news and what have you, they focus on negative news stories. It's for a reason, right? So this whole idea that well, all the money is in the pixie dusting, all the money's in the shilling, not so much. Yeah, you might get that, you know, that movie premiere. You might get on that ride maybe a week early, but you want to buy a new car, you want to buy a new house. Well, you're probably better off being a negative Disney content creator because that's where all the fucking money's at. And here, I'm not here to say how anyone should create their content. You want to be a pixie duster, you want to be super negative, you do you. Make your money however you want to make it. But I'm not going to pretend like just because you're negative and just because you criticize Disney all the time that you're somehow more authentic than the pixie duster. Not necessarily. Absolutely not. Because you could be faking it just as much as that pixie duster, but you're just faking it for that different angle. To me, you're still, look, it's two sides of the same coin at the end of the day, right? You're still kind of doing it for that audience capture, for that money, for that AdSense. You're just, instead of kissing Disney's ass, you're just bashing them. But are they really that much different, right? So I think that's a big thing here, in that yes, there are fake fans, but they're not always pixie dusters. Sometimes they are those negative Disney content creators as well. So that's just kind of how it happens, BJ, you know, unfortunately. But like I said, nerd recognize nerd. Like you, me, everyone here watching, like people that are actually passionate about this stuff, you can pretty much recognize who's in it for the money and the access and who's in it for like actually loving this stuff. I want to give you a perfect example of someone who actually loves this stuff. Check out Josh, Den of Nerds. Okay. Now that guy's pretty balanced. Like he'll be very positive about Marvel, Disney, Star Wars when he sees fit. He'll also be very critical. I mean, to the point where it's pretty brutal. But at the end of the day, whether he's being positive about Disney and Star Wars and Marvel, or whether he's being negative and very critical and harsh, you can tell that Josh loves this stuff. He's a nerd. You could tell that even if he wasn't doing content, even if he wasn't doing it for a living, this man would be watching this stuff. You can tell. I'm a nerd. I can tell. Okay. There are people, though, that you know that isn't the case. They get in front of the camera or they make their content because they know that the Disney thing sells, right? And like if they didn't make money on it, they probably wouldn't give it the time of day. There are people like that. So anyway, that's kind of where I stand with it. I think that authenticity doesn't necessarily come from being positive or negative. Authenticity is just authenticity. And just because you're negative all the time doesn't mean you're authentic. Just remember that. Just remember that. Negativity does not equal authenticity. And just because you like something doesn't mean you're fake necessarily either. So we'll see. But BJ, that was a fantastic, fantastic question. I want to thank you so much, brother. And BJ, also, I want to thank you so much for your support over the years. You've been a big supporter of the channel, man. You're always in our live chat, while we're doing our shows and everything. And we do appreciate you, BJ, really, for real. You are awesome, brother. Keep, just thank you so much. We really do appreciate you, brother. But that concludes this little kind of mini Q&A. I answered a couple more questions. I probably will do another video with a few more of your questions. Like I said, I got a lot of them this time and they're all fantastic. So more Q&As coming in the days to come. I don't know if it's going to be just a solo video like myself, or if I'll pair up with like Dre or George or or somebody else, maybe even Theme Park Wizard or Jalen. We'll see. I don't know yet, but I'm going to try to get through a few more of these questions. So keep an eye out for those. But comment down below with all your thoughts and everything we talked about. Fake fans, Shills, the IP arms race. What started it? Why is Disney so obsessed with IP right now? I would love to hear from you. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye, everybody.